Hey everyone, it's Carissa. Welcome to Satur-YAY, where we are celebrating the weekend by getting our craft on. And today we are going to work on a few holiday projects because they are quickly approaching. And we're going to be using this Concord and Ninth Take a Bow die set. Now, this may not look like much, but you are going to be blown away at what you can do with this die set. I saw it and I knew I had to use it. So what I have here are the 3 bows of this die set here. And I'm going to be running them through my die cut machine like a lot. So I'm just taking some packing tape and I'm holding these dies together because I had already cut them apart. And then I'm going to neutralize the adhesive that's showing between those dies with my EK Success powder tool. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. I actually did this without neutralizing the adhesive and it worked just fine. Now, here's the deal with these dies. You want to run them through your die cut machine lengthwise. So don't do as I do right here, not the other way that I just showed you, but you're going to run these through your die cut machine lengthwise. You're going to get a better cut. You're going to get better results. Now, in addition to running them through lengthwise, and I actually tried this both ways just to make sure because it's a tip that I picked up from the Concord and Ninth website, but I did try them both ways and imagine, they knew what they were talking about when they said run them through lengthwise. So I followed instructions. I got great cuts on these. I am also using the Sizzix Precision base plate. I just found that I got a little bit better results with that, but you can definitely run these through with your regular die cut sandwich. If you're finding you don't have quite enough pressure for these intricate dies, you can try something like the Memory Box metal adapter shim, or even just a cardstock shim sometimes is enough to give you the pressure that you need for these intricate dies. So once I got all my bows cut out, I also cut out the snowflakes several times. And through the magic of television, I now have 50 of each of these. Yes, I know I went a little overboard and I still have extras even after all the projects that I created. But these, you're going to see the versatility of these, and I think I'm going to use these all through the holiday season. So just stick with me here. I did it while I was watching TV, and now it's time to roll on assembly. So I'm taking the largest bows first. I'm adding some ATG adhesive over the center holes. Each of these bows has 3 holes in them. So for the first 2 layers, I'm going to take the largest bows, full size, and I'm going to line up the center holes. And I'm going to use the ATG adhesive to keep those together. For the next layer, I'm going to use the largest bows again, but I am going to cut them in half. And then I'm going to use those outer holes that are on the bows to line up to create the next layer. So I'm going to get this step down effect. So you can see that second outer hole there. I'm just lining all of those up into kind of this snowflake shape to create the next layer of my tree. And I'm just going to continue working my way around. Now I'm going to create 2 of that size. So what I've done is actually taken 6 bows and cut them in half and lined up that outer hole. Once I am done with the largest bows, I'm going to move to the medium bows, and I'm going to start once again by adding the ATG adhesive and lining up the center holes. And then I'm going to cut them in half, and I am going to use the outer holes to line up to create that step down effect. So for each layer that you create, you're going to create 2 of those layers. So you get a nice full tree. Now you don't have to create this full of a tree, but I think it makes for a really nice effect. Now I have all of my layers put together. I've worked my way all the way through the large, the medium, and the small size bows, taking them full size and lining up the center hole, and then cutting them in half and lining up the outer hole. So I have 2 of each layer, and now I'm taking a 1/8 inch bamboo skewer and I'm sliding them down onto the skewer to create my tree. Now I've kept them in order as I've assembled them, so this was nice and easy to do. And you can kind of offset them as you add them to the skewer. But that adhesive that we added into the center of each of those layers is helping to keep them in place. Now, if you're having a hard time with them sliding down the skewer, when you line up your bows, try offsetting that hole just a teensy bit, just to close up that hole a little more. You'll get a tighter, snugger fit onto your bamboo skewer. So I'm going to finish off the top of this tree by adding the snowflakes. I've added 2 of the largest snowflakes together, and I've added the ATG adhesive. And then I did the medium snowflakes and then the smallest snowflakes. And once again, I did offset those holes just a teensy tiny bit to make sure that it was nice and snug on that bamboo skewer. Now you saw me use my scissors there to kind of adjust any layers, and then I could squirt a little bit of that multi-medium matte in there to keep those in place, and that finished off my tree. Now I'm also going to make several card projects using these boughs because they are, like I said, so versatile. I'm going to be using the Concord and Ninth Oh Christmas Tree stamp set. It has some awesome sentiments, and it even has a great sentiment for a tag. And now, hindsight, looking back, I wish I would have created a tag with this as well. But like I said, I have extra of those boughs, so I'm sure they're coming this holiday season. So I'm stamping these onto some textured white linen cardstock from the Essentials by Ellen line. I started with that. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I stamped that in some VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink. And now I'm using some Mama Elephant red pigment ink to stamp the Deck the Halls sentiment into the center of this piece of cardstock. By the way, all of these pieces of the Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock have been cut down using the largest stitched rectangle die from the small stitched rectangle die set from Lawn Fawn, just to add a little bit of stitching to the edge and add a little bit of interest. Now for the last one, I'm just stamping that Merry Christmas sentiment into the bottom right-hand corner. And now I'm going to take several of the smallest size bough and I'm going to cut them in half because I'm going to create a wreath around this sentiment. Now, in order to keep my wreath in a circular shape, I don't think I could freehand that. So I just took a circle die from my collection and I lightly traced around the edge using a pencil. That's all going to be covered up with these boughs anyway. And then I'm taking the 1/8 inch score tape and I am just pressing it down around that circular edge. And that's what I'm going to use to hold these boughs in place temporarily. I'll go back and squirt a little bit of multi-medium matte behind them to keep them in place really well. But this is going to give me a base on which to build my wreath. So you can see here, I started at that left edge. I added them going in opposite direction. These are once again, the small boughs, and they've been cut in half. And for each one, as I work around, I'm just tucking it in behind the previous one. Now, once I get the base of my wreath kind of built on this card, I'm going to take a few more of those small boughs. I'm going to cut them in half, and I'm going to add some fullness to my wreath by adding a few more of these boughs in. And I just added a little bit of Tombow Mono multi-glue to these to add them onto this wreath and kind of be able to tuck them and slide them under previous pieces that were there. And finally, I'm going to finish off this wreath with some berries. Now, you could use some gems for this. You could use some enamel dots, but I wanted to test out using this Ranger enamel accents. This is the classic cherry color, to make my own kind of enamel dots. Now, you can see here, I'm just squirting this out onto my Ranger craft mat in little beads here. You want to be sure you don't get them too close together because they will form a total blob if you get them too close together. I allowed them to dry, and now I'm just attaching them onto my wreath using some multi-medium matte. And you can see I'm picking them up here and just adding them onto my wreath. Now, they were kind of a little bit difficult to deal with, so I tried squirting some enamel accents onto the wreath, but because I put them too close together, I wanted those clusters of 3, it just kind of melted into each other and made this blob. And so then I had to figure out a way to hide that mess I made because I wasn't about to redo this card. Not that it was hard or anything, but I knew I was making several card projects, so I wanted to get on with it. So I just took a little bit of red and white baker's twine. I tied a couple of bows. I scraped up very carefully as much of that blob of enamel accents that I could. And then I just kind of filled in with an extra bow and added that bow over the top. And now only me and you and all of YouTube knows that I totally screwed that up. It'll be our little secret, okay? So now for this, I wanted to show you that I took several sizes of these boughs. I cut them in half and I'm kind of arranging them to kind of make a swag shape onto the front of this card. So I'm just kind of staggering them. I've taken the large one and put that straight out. I've taken the medium one and kind of angled it out from there. And then the smallest one at the top, I angled out towards the top. And then I'm going to fill in the center with a solid one of the smallest bough. Now I've used a little bit of foam adhesive behind this to add a little bit of dimension. And to kind of fill in that middle portion, I'm going to take one of these snowflakes and add it into the center. It just adds a nice fullness to the center of that bough. And I'm going to finish it off with a little bit more red and white baker's twine. So as you can see here, I went to town and created a ton of projects using this Take a Bow die set, as well as that Oh Christmas Tree stamp set. And I love the simplicity of these cards because it's all about those big, bold, beautiful sentiments and that greenery with the red berries on it. Now I finished these cards off by adding a layer of peppermint cardstock from Basil, and I added all of the card fronts with those layers onto a craft wood grain card base, and I just love the way these turned out. So here's a look at all of the different arrangements I was able to create with this Take a Bow die. I'm sure you could come up with a million more. It is so versatile. As always, I will have links to all the products used in these projects over at the Classroom blog, where you can also see more still shots. All of these products are available for purchase at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for stopping by today. Happy Satur-YAY, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.